All right. Welcome, everyone, to the 30th episode of Some Casual Takes, a podcast hosted by me, Stephen Pepper, featuring other sports fans debating interesting topics with the most casual takes. I'm here with Kieran on TikTok, and we got Chris, our NBA expert, at the bottom. Welcome back, Chris. This episode is sponsored by no one. We got a lot. How many games? We got 3 games to talk about and some breaking news. When I wake up, I check my phone. We got some breaking news, but we also have some games tonight as well. We aren't really going to get into that, but we can start off with some quick warm-ups before we go on the news. So we got Nuggets Timberwolves tonight. I think we're all taking the Nuggets, unless you think the Timberwolves are going to take one in Minnesota. I'm taking the Nuggets in a sweep. Shout out to Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't think he's good.
Karl-Anthony Towns is not good. He's the third best player on the team.
That team is a mess overall. I mean, this season has been very bad for the T-Wolves. Trading for Rudy Gobert was not a good idea, and they got rid of a lot of capital to get Rudy.
I think it was, but they just gave up too much for it. I think the package – I think the idea was right, but the package was terrible.
My thing is about that, trade, I thought Gobert would have, help Cat with his defensive liabilities because Cat's a bad defender. We can agree with that. The crazy thing is when Cat got hurt, they were actually they were one of the best defenses in the league. It's a bad play.
Yeah.
I think Gobert and Anthony Edwards would be a better fit than having Cat out there.
It's time to trade Cat this offseason. So if we want to get it, if you think you have a trade, do you have a trade package for Karl-Anthony Towns in your head or no? Because someone tried to make me do it on TikTok live last night, and I couldn't give him a package.
Where does Cat go? He's a defensive liability. He's not as aggressive as other big men in the league. He's a good off-ball player. I'll give him that. He's a good shooter, obviously, but he's a big man. He's not. He plays like a guard. I don't know.
Maybe Golden State. I don't know.
Golden State's probably the only place.
Golden State for Karl-Anthony Towns, a team that just needs a big man, desperate for scoring out of the big man position that could give assets. Because I don't want him in the Lakers. Hopefully, I heard the Lakers might be acquiring Trae Young in the offseason. I've been seeing that rumors pick up. I don't want to.
I wouldn't hate that.
I mean. Yeah, you forgot about there's also another – you forgot about the other games happening. The first game at 7 is, as you already know, we talk about Trae, the Celtics and Hawks. Then on ABC –
that series is over. We're good.
ABC, once again, Cavaliers and Knicks at 8:30.
Let them know.
That's going to be an interesting game because game 2, it was physical, to say the least. There was a lot of blood. There was – a flagrant foul call.
And these playoffs have been really physical. I'm actually liking what I've been seeing out of these playoffs.
I like it too.
Ejections, that Brooklyn game, people are flying on the floor.
And he had an ejection from Claxton because last night we were watching that game. Yeah, we were watching the game last night for Philly. And then you saw Claxton. Yeah, you saw
tough playoffs. So I don't want any old heads to say the same.
And people are saying, "Oh yeah, this team is getting physical. This is not should be." But I'm just saying to you, Claxton and Embiid, that was classic theater right there.
I actually wanted to talk about that real quick.
And the Sabonis and Draymond thing.
We'll go. Did Harden get a flagrant too? Embiid didn't. I don't get it. Embiid literally kicked Claxton in the nuts. Harden was just doing his motion that he's done for the last decade. And it was accidental.
He was trying to make a basketball play, and Embiid wasn't.
Embiid literally kicked Claxton in the balls,
on purpose too.
On purpose.
Yeah. For 3 games tonight. Hawks series. Maybe Atlanta gets 1 in Atlanta. Maybe.
I don't think they are. I think it's. I don't know.
I'm just gonna say they just don't. But I won't be surprised if Trae Young just goes for 40 in Atlanta. Knicks in Madison Square Garden. That's going to be a game I'll be watching tonight.
That's going to be a lot of energy.
Spike Lee there because Spike Lee was there in Cleveland. He's out there courtside in Madison Square Garden. That crowd's going to be hype. And
I think it's going to be a 5-point game. I'm a Knicks fan, but
for Cleveland, it's going to go to a game 7. I think it's definitely going to a game 7 because these two teams are in the regular season, New York beat them, and Cleveland got a couple. But it's different because you have Mitchell, you got Garland, you have Brunson and Josh Hart. I mean, it's like they were chirping each other. Hart and Mitchell were chirping on social media saying, "We effing got you." I'm like, "I effing got you, boy." That's what he said because it goes back to the college days. But that's going to be an interesting series.
I've always said this. I think Cleveland obviously has the better stars with like Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland,
Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley.
Is he there?
You got like I'm here. Oh, that was weird. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but like you got Brunson, you got Randall, and then like you got Quickly, who I really like. You got Josh Hart, obviously.
Mitchell Robinson,
who's actually playing solid. Robinson's pretty good. Like the Knicks are a good team. It's just that the Cavs have more firepower.
Yeah, but they need to utilize the bench. In this series, they need to get guys off the bench, like put in Danny Green or I forgot Lopez. Yeah, and I spoke about that in game one, saying you need to put Green in right now. Give him minutes because he can go out there and he can stretch the floor and shoot threes. And same thing with Rubio. I mean, Jarius is going to get tired out there, and JB needs to look at the bench and say, "Hey, who should I put in? Jarius is getting tired. Ricky, get in there, and Ricky can get in, put in some minutes. Or if Mobley gets tired, put in Robin Lopez. I mean, or Jetty Osman. That's one thing about your playoff team: the bench. Yeah. Utilize the bench. Get the bench because
the Knicks bench is better than Cleveland's, and that's why they won game one. Is because Cleveland's bench.
And surprisingly, Derrick Rose hasn't even played.
Josh Hart was great. The bench is going to be interesting.
When people don't understand that like bench is like one of the most important things in basketball. Like that's why like when it comes to this Clippers and Suns series, I'm just like, don't overlook the Clippers bench.
That's why Phoenix isn't blowing anyone out, despite
exactly.
And Booker.
Like
I think the Suns. Their bench need to change. The Phoenix Suns are a good team, but what I mentioned about New York was I forgot to mention about New York, but their bench, there's one all-star, there's an all-star on the bench who hasn't even played it at all. Derrick Rose. And that's really sad for New York, seeing him sitting on the bench not playing at all. And there's like, this is the first time he's got a DMP in the playoffs, right? Yeah. And you look over at the bench and Derek's not even playing. Not even getting minutes.
He's their best player in the playoffs against Atlanta 2 years ago, and now he's getting DNPs.
I don't want to talk about that.
The rise and fall of it. And then, of course, you got, for Phoenix, they played well against the Clippers, but the Clippers overall did not have Kawhi Leonard, and they did not have Paul George, but they started up the game strong, and they blew it. Now Saturday comes along, tomorrow, and this is a do-or-die game. If Kawhi Leonard plays, if he doesn't, series is over. And back in Phoenix home court, the Suns are going to stomp on them.
All right, let's get this back. Kieran, real quick, bro. I was looking back. When you stitched my video, I went back in my comments to see what people are saying in mine. Dude, there's people who genuinely believe that Jaylen Brown is better than Jason.
Bro, people are idiots. Like, Jaylen, like, listen, like, people call me this Jaylen Brown hater. I'm not a hater. I just like evaluate his game. And when I see him, he's a very good scorer. I'm not denying that. He's a good scorer. But he's not the best ball handler. His on-ball defense is good, but his off-ball defense is bad. So like when people say like, "Oh, how is Jaylen Brown overrated? He's a top 15 player." I'm just critiquing him as a player. I think Jason Tatum is clearly better than him.
Like, yeah, and I think I've been actually hearing this take since the NBA Finals because Jaylen Brown was better than Tatum. So now, since then, I've seen a lot of people now. Jaylen Brown's also getting his 27 piece, looking good. Some nights he's putting up, if not better stats than Tatum. So there's actually a crowd of people who believe that Jaylen Brown's better than Jason Tatum, or if it's like really close. And I don't think so, but I just think it's dumb.
People have to realize, like, when it comes to like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, is that in the NBA Finals, the Warriors were always going to focus on the best player, and that was Jason Tatum. Like, they gave him fits. They rather let Jaylen Brown go off than Jason Tatum. Like, because, like, Jason Tatum has the best chance for the Celtics to win. Like
Yeah.
He was
And it's
alone. Tatum was alone by himself.
Like people were in my comments like, trade Brown, why not trade Tatum? I was like, okay. But let's get the show back on track with the headline for today. Breaking news. I wake up, get a Woj tweet. Nick Nurse, Toronto Raptors head coach, gets fired. I think he's been like in this news for like the last year or so to be out, which I always thought was weird. But now he's officially fired. Kieran, what's your guys' thoughts on Nick Nurse, championship winning head coach, just 4 years ago? No, 5 years ago now, fired.
I got to say that Toronto. You can start.
Yeah, like the thing about Nick Nurse, like I always thought he was a good defensive coach. I think his schemes are very good. I think people criticize him because like he doesn't utilize the bench as often as he used to when like in 2020 and 2019. But I think it's also part of that like the bench just got way worse over that time. Yeah, Nick Nurse has his issues like every other coach, but I don't think you fire a coach in his 5th year when he's already won a championship. And I think if you give him like great talent, like more talent, like you'll be a championship contender again. I think the Raptors are going to regret it. I do.
And who I guess it's too early to think, but are they looking for Ime Udoka? It's like, who's going to be a replacement? Is it gonna be someone off their staff, or is it going to be a new guy?
Because with Toronto, you mentioned, I was going to say something, but for Toronto, when you had Nick Nurse come in, Nick came into an organization that was at a crossroad because a lot of people don't remember. In 2018, they lose in a gentleman's sweep to Cleveland. Dwayne Casey loses the job. Then you basically add Nick. Nick has experience coaching in the G League and overseas. From there, they add Kawhi Leonard. Win the championship. They're going to say they're going to run it back. Kawhi, Danny, and a few other players, they leave. When they lose to Boston in Game 7, we all know what happens. Siakam played terrible. They let go of Ibaka and Gasol, and they were playing games in Tampa. Didn't really work out in Tampa. Lowry leaves in free agency, and now Van Vliet's team. This season, Toronto underwhelmed in a lot of categories. Didn't play well, didn't really click as a team, had injuries and other issues. So, and they lost in the play-in tournament because of DeMar's daughter screaming at the free throw line every minute. So we all knew Nick was going to be gone. I mean, at the end of the season, he was going to say that he was going to take some time, but Masai Ujiri, just there, no more. We relieve Nick, and I don't think the front runner should be not Udoka. I mean, there's a lot of other coaches, like Frank Vogel is one name. That's another big name that might do the job. Kenny Atkinson from the Warriors, he'll take a job too. Or James Borrego. He's another name that I forgot to mention as well. I mean, there's a long list of coaching candidates who might take the Raptors job.
Okay, so you think they should go offense or defensive head coach, man?
I think they should go with Udoka, possibly. Yeah, and then add Frank. I mean, the staff should be. They should let go of everybody except for Jamal Magloire, who's a candidate ambassador on the team. Keep Jamal Magloire, but fire the other assistants, and then have as head coach Udoka, assistant coach Frank Vogel. I mean, that could be a good idea to have Frank as an assistant, and then. Building a coaching staff, that's kind of another thing with the team and seeing how much the team can win a championship or go for the title or go in the playoffs the following year, because everybody knows that's how you win a title.
Yeah, but here's my thing, right? I don't disagree with the firing. Maybe they just maybe they saw something where, wow, we disappointed this year. We should be a playoff team. We're losing the play-in. Maybe this one's on Nurse. Give Nurse the responsibility over the players, because it's easier to move off a coach than it is to move off players. But my thing is, they were the 6th seed last year, and they were the 10th, 9th seed this year. I think at full potential, this roster is still like a 6th seed. So, even if Nick Nurse was got this roster to where they should be, their ceiling is not even that high. So you can't even blame it on Nick Nurse. I feel like this is more of a roster thing because we saw what Nick Nurse would do defensively, like game plan wise, when he has his roster. That series against Giannis, that was a masterclass defensive game plan in 2019. When he has his rosters, 2020, that season that got shut down with the bubble, I think that was
those guys
all-time greatest win percentage that season. They were actually really good that year.
But they didn't win the title because they struggled. Let's not forget, they swept Brooklyn, but then against Boston, Siakam played very terribly in that series and didn't really have like a rhythm at all because he was kind of saying, "Oh, I didn't pick up a basketball for about a month or so." Mm-hmm. So he kind of had a decline. They won on OG Anunoby's game-winning 3 as well.
Yeah,
but after that bubble, they moved to Tampa and they just did not make the playoffs. They were very terrible on defense. They were slow.
Weren't the Raptors down like 3-0, and then OG Anunoby hit that buzzer beater, and they still pushed
2-0. It was 2-0, and then after that, and then also Game 6, Powell played well. They lost a lot of bench depth over the season, and in the Tampa bubble, they lost a lot of guys like Matt Thomas, Terrence Davis. Norman Powell, they let him walk away in a trade, but they lost a lot of ceiling on that team. Toronto did.
Siakam 15 points on sub 40 shooting that series. Van Vliet,
yeah,
oh my God, yikes,
a lot.
And Gasol looked slower. Let's not forget, Gasol looked much slower in that series.
Gasol was not
it was like. I've always said this about the bubble. Like, I'm always going to count the Lakers championship, but
for everybody else, it was like a finishing of the season for the bubble because you had people that were Laker fans saying, "Oh, we won," but for other people like the Phoenix Suns fans, they were like acting all because I had a friend who's a Suns fan and he was going bananas when they went 8-0, and he's like, "We're 8-0, we broke the." I told him, "You guys aren't even in the playoffs. Be quiet." And he's like, "What do you mean? We broke a?" It doesn't mean nothing. Talk to me when you make the playoffs in about 9 years. And then basically the following year, the Suns made the playoffs, and my friend was laughing, saying, "We got you in the first round, bucko. We get to play the Lakers. We'll see who's laughing when the series is done." And since then, it has not been the same from Phoenix since that 8-0 bubble. I mean,
but last thing on Nurse before we move on. Where does he go? Because he's obviously going to get a job. There's no way Nick Nurse is going to be on the market for a year.
I think Nick Nurse goes to Houston. I think
the Rockets should. They should invest in Nick Nurse or Detroit.
Nick Nurse, Houston. How does that work?
Or Detroit or the Pistons. Let's not forget the Pistons also need a head coach as well.
It would be really funny if he went to the Detroit because he would take Dwayne Casey's job again.
And then he gets the coach with Victor.
No, but like if he goes to Detroit, like there's a lot of guys who have such high ceilings. Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey could be one of the best backcourts in the league.
And Marvin Bagley, let's not forget, Marvin Bagley also is on that team, and he could be a big help, and he can revitalize his career. But I think that Houston should be a good area for Nick because that Houston Rockets team is an AAU team. They are a mess. They've not been able to recover since the James Harden trade, and they have a lot of guys on that team that need a team makeover because someone said this summer, the Rockets need a makeover, and they need to get one right now. We don't care how long it takes. We can do this all. We can do this all in about like next season because that roster has Josh Christopher, Tyrese Eason, Jabari Smith Jr. You got Kenyon Martin Jr., Jason Tate, Alfred Şengün. You have Boban, and then you have the Cavaliers wild card who had issues, Kevin Porter Jr. So I think the Rockets should get Nick Nurse because Nick could change that team around, and then they can make a bunch of trades to bring in veterans or guys who have won championships to that team because the Rockets, they need to just get rid of all these random guys on the team. Like the first day Nick comes in, just literally trade away. I mean, they should do that.
Go ahead, Kieran.
I think if Nick Nurse goes to Houston, like he could like bring out the potential in Jabari Smith. I think Jabari Smith has a lot of potential. I also think Kevin Porter Jr. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of him, I think Nick Nurse can make him better. But like as you said, the coach is terrible in Houston right now, and
He's gone.
and the veterans are not good. Like DJ Augustine is like
Frank Kaminsky.
Like Frank Kaminsky, Boban, like these guys are like bench warmers.
And Willie Cauley-Stein. They got Willie Cauley-Stein for no reason.
Cauley-Stein. Oh, I remember Kings fans were high on him. That was so funny.
I don't even know why they got Frank Kaminsky. I mean, he was really good in Charlotte, and he's bounced around from Phoenix to Sacramento to Atlanta. Then he gets traded to Houston, and in the offseason thing, he said, I don't know my future is here. I mean, I want to stay in Houston, but we'll have to see what happens. But the point is, the Rockets could definitely use Nick Nurse to take over that entire roster. And he can bring out Kevin Porter Jr., the best in KPJ, because we all know how Kevin Porter Jr. is, because we saw how great he was in Cleveland. And then you had the incident where he had a tantrum and threw food everywhere. But this season, I think he's done a good job of keeping his emotions in check and playing good basketball. But still, the Rockets do need that leadership with Nick and his coaching.
Yep. All right. Now we got to move on. But I do want to say at the end, I do agree he should go to Houston. I think he would work in Houston. I think he would bring out the best of his players. That team plays a lick of defense. I think as a defensive head coach, I think he can try to get some of those guys like Jalen Green to play some defense. And I think they have a pick. They have young talent. And I think a lot of those guys aren't under contract, so they probably have some money. Nick Nurse could make that work. But we got to move on. Hopefully my Wi-Fi is cutting out too. So this house Wi-Fi is terrible, and I'm getting the Wi-Fi signal. But if you guys can hear me at least, the Warriors and Kings, finally we're talking about playoffs. We're 20 minutes in. Warriors, Kings, what is your guys' reaction? Kieran, I'm going to start with you. The Warriors win a game.
So I was the person to say that the Warriors would win in a sweep. That obviously did not happen. But when they were down 2-0,
Warriors in 4.
That was a dumb prediction. I don't want to talk about that. Let's just say I said it in 5, okay? But anyway, like when they were down 2-0, I was like, there's no way they're going down like 3-0 against a Kings team whose defense is terrible. And we all know that the Warriors are arguably the best team at home. I think like the problem with the Warriors on the road, their motor switches like that. Like they're just not as confident on the road. I kind of knew they were gonna win Game 3 even without Draymond. People have to realize about Draymond though that like when he's on the court, he does hurt their spacing and they can't go as fast paced as they used to. But when he's off the court, look at their team, offensive explosion, and their defense looked great, like as well. You know,
I did notice that they felt like they were getting out faster in transition. They just moved quicker around the ball without Draymond Green there. The lane looked open. Draymond Green's not hogging that top of the key that he usually does when he is inserting that lineup as a playmaker. But what I saw from the Kings Warriors, I saw a Warriors team that came out desperate. I saw a team that was just down 2-0. I saw a team that looked like they were down 2-0. A team that was desperate and a team that had a will to win. A team that did not want to be down 3-0. No Draymond, down 2-0. Steph Curry, this is the first time in his career Steph Curry has been down 2-0. Without Draymond Green, they were desperate and they needed to win more than ever, and they got it. Steph Curry was not going to let that series fall. First time in his career down 0-2. And like you said, Kieran, this team is completely different at home. It's like something changed. This team, once they come home, they're just a completely different team. The team just plays better all around on both sides of the ball. They're 33-8 at home. But then on the road, they're 11-30. So they have what? 3 more losses on the road, 3 more wins on the road than they have losses at home. It's a crazy dynamic we're seeing here. Being 0-2 is bad. See, now this is interesting about the series, which I think it's kind of in their favor. Being down 0-2, it first of all, straightforward. Being down 0-2 does not sound favorable. But
I think that with Draymond being suspended, that if they would have lost last night and with Draymond being suspended, they would have been 0-2 in the postseason without Draymond Green, counting the game where he was in the finals with the whole flapping of LeBron. But they made they proved the point last night. They said, we're the champs. We're not going home and we're not losing this easily. And I think that's going to happen on, I think I got to look at that schedule again to see when they play together. But when they play again, I think it's
Sunday.
When they play again on Sunday at 3:30 on ABC, that one's the pivotal point of the game of the series.
Yeah,
being 2-1 because they're still at home with Draymond being back. So we could see a potential Game 7 or a potential Game 6 because if the series is tied up, it's going to probably go to a Game 7. If things don't go differently, then we might see it go to a Game 6. But still, this has been a competitive, physical series, and the Warriors they're here to play. They ain't gonna die anytime soon.
All right. So what I was trying to say, before I got interrupted there, what I was trying to say is straightforward. Being down 0-2 looks bad, but it's manageable when you have games 3 and 4 at home. Because if you're as good of a home team as Golden State, this series isn't over. Because if you're as good as a home team as Golden State, you have game 3 and 4 at home down 0-2. You can easily win games 3 and 4, and you're back tied 2-2. It's basically 0-0 with 3 games left. At home, it's a weird dynamic. Offensively, this team is unstoppable. Like you said, it's like their motor's different. It's because of that crowd. That crowd in the Bay Area fuels that team. It fuels Steph Curry. You see Steph Curry going to the crowd, hyping them up, talking to the crowd. It fuels them. If you look at their dynasty run back then, they just play so much better at home. Offensively, they like to front run in front of that crowd. They like to shoot in front of that crowd because it fuels them. I think
it feeds off the energy.
I think the home and road dynamic now looks worse because they're less talented than they were in those early championship years. They were always better at home than they were on the road, but now the disparity is bigger now because they're less talented. But still, offensively, this team is unstoppable at home, and defensively, they're much better too. I think they said they're a top 5 defensive team at home. As far as teams' defensive ratings at home, they're one of the best defensive teams at home. And they did this without Draymond Green. They still look like a better defensive team, even without Draymond Green. So home, no matter with or without Draymond Green, at home, they're a much better defensive team. So Steph Curry was Steph Curry. Steph Curry loves playing in front of that home crowd. I think he had, 36 points? Bro was making 3 after 3. He was cooking. Steph Curry was cooking. And another underrated guy last night who I think really helped them winning was Kevon Looney. This is a guy who also wasn't trying to go home. Steph Curry wasn't trying to be down 3-0. So was Kevon Looney. Bro had 20 rebounds.
4 points. He had 4 points with 20 rebounds. But Looney
had 20 rebounds. It felt like Kevon Looney was grabbing every single rebound over Sacramento. Every time Golden State would miss a shot, here comes Kevon Looney over the back of a
Golden State grabbing it.
Give him that second chance. I think he had 9 offensive rebounds, something like that. Let me make sure I get. 9 offensive rebounds. That's huge. You'll take 9 offensive rebounds from your big man.
Kevon played well
in the interior. So shout out to Looney. So
I also think it's a good look that they survived a bad Clay shooting night. Clay played terrible.
13 points for Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he shot
then 3 for 10.
5 for 16 or something like that.
3 for 10 from 3. And still, that Warriors team looked really great. But for Sacramento, we all know about the Sabonis thing, and we all know that they had the issue. But the entire night when Sabonis was out there on the floor, they were giving it to him. The fans were booing and stuff. For Sacramento side, 97 points, not really that good. 17 points for Barnes, 6 for Keegan Murray, 15 points for Sabonis, 13 for Herter, and the leading scorer, De'Aaron Fox, is 26. He was alone by himself. all of last night for Sacramento. And then for the bench, you have Monk with 4, Mitchell with 5, Davis with 3, Lyles with 2, Alex Len with 2 points. And then the rest of the bench players, they laid an egg.
Yep. This was a
0.
as far as Sacramento, this was a missed opportunity for them. This is Sacramento. Yes, they're playing in Golden State, but this is one of the best road teams in basketball. I think this is the best road team in basketball. I'm pretty sure. I think they are. I think they're above 500 on the road. So this is a team that can play on the road, and none of their supporting cast showed up. Malik Monk, that's disappointing. You're telling me you have a chance. No Draymond. So I think I had the Golden State winning game 3 before the suspension. But no Draymond Green. You're up 2-0. You have the chance to go up 3-0. That series is over. And yet Malik Monk lays an egg. That's disappointing. Sacramento completely missed an opportunity last night to really just end that series.
I kind of agree because now that the game's tomorrow, the game is on Sunday. They have an opportunity, and if they don't close it out and they go back home, they're not going to win that game. Because I always tell everybody in the NBA playoffs, do not take your foot off the gas. If you're up 2-1, or if you're up 3-1, it doesn't mean the series is over. You have one more game to go, and if you blow that lead, there goes your season right down the toilet. So that's the one thing about that series. And then, of course, we got the Clippers and Suns. And what do you think about that game?
I think it shows that the Clippers are a contender with Kawhi and PG. I think they're arguably probably the best team in the West. They might be
if they're healthy.
If they're healthy, yeah. PG and Kawhi are healthy.
If
it's always if. I know.
It's
always
sad
because last night they had
I think you're spot on, bro. Kieran, I think you're spot on, bro. Because I look at this roster. You see how they're competing against Phoenix with no Kawhi, no Paul George. This team is deep from top to bottom. Powell, Gordon, Zubac. They got pieces. Terrence Mann.
And Russ is playing
Kawhi and Paul George healthy with continuity and chemistry in this lineup. How is this not a championship-winning team? But it's an.
I agree. Well, the Paul George injury was just unlucky. Like,
extremely.
Paul George is relatively healthy, like for his entire career. Kawhi,
the Clipper curse.
Kawhi, man, like it just really sucks.
How are you load managing a playoff game?
Oh man,
how are you load managing a playoff game?
It's really sad.
Kieran, help me out, Kieran. You spend first of all, you don't play for 2 years because of that. Okay, ACL. But that was an injury though. That ACL injury. I think I'm not saying I'm not asking you to come back, but you're gone for a while. You're resting off that injury. You come back, they load manage you for the entire season for something like this not to happen. All of a sudden, it happens. So they spend all regular season making sure that this doesn't happen, and it happens. And
again,
we're going to load manage them in the playoffs.
But and it's the Clipper curse.
It's
the Clipper curse.
If this is like Nuggets, Timberwolves, and Jokic gets like a knee injury, I'll load manage Jokic because I can drop a game. I can drop a game to the Timberwolves, right? I can drop a game to the Timberwolves.
I don't know about tonight because they're in Minnesota.
You cannot drop a game to Phoenix. You're like, I can load manage Kawhi, take a loss here, and then we can bounce back. No, Kawhi has to play. Like, you're not winning without Kawhi. You can't just drop a game to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, 2 guys capable of scoring 40 in the NBA Finals. You cannot drop a game to them. Yeah. It's unacceptable for Kawhi Leonard, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the point is,
he's really hurt.
It's the Clipper. I always said it's
one at a time.
It's a right knee sprain, right? And that's a pretty significant injury. Those don't heal after 3 days. They just don't. They're always gonna reoccur. So I just if he plays game 4, I just don't think it was a right knee sprain. I think it's just a low manage.
That's what I'm saying. They're saying he hurt it in game 1. He plays in game 2. And then if he's so hurt, he doesn't play in game 3. And he's probably going to play in game 4. So how bad was it?
Yeah.
How bad was it?
They lost by 5 or 7 last night, and Russ
Missed
was cooking.
opportunity.
Russ and Norman Powell were cooking, and they almost won.
They have Kawhi in that game. They most
They're
likely
winning.
win. And we're talking about
They
a
win by 10.
completely different series.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because this Clippers team is either 1 or 2 in the West, in my opinion.
And they always have injuries because I always forget to mention it's the Clipper curse. I always say every year in the playoffs, the Clipper curse is real. Every single time someone gets injured. I mean, I'm going to go back to many years. 2014, they lose the Thunder in Game 5. 2015, they blow a 3-1 deficit to the Rockets. 2016, Blake Griffin tears up his quad and Chris Paul breaks his hand. 2017, Blake tears up his toe. 2019, they didn't have a curse. They had a good year. They tried to take a series against Golden State. 2020, with all the smoke and them talking about we got Kawhi, we got Paul George, we got Lou Williams, we got Montrezl Harrell. We even picked up Joakim Noah before the bubble. They blow a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets, and Doc loses his job in the end. So I don't know what's up with the Clippers. Every year something happens. Someone gets hurt. Someone's injured in the playoff series. Somebody is out in a pivotal game or something. So I don't think that they're prime time. And if you're playing the Phoenix Suns, you have to beat them before they get – you have to get them before they get you. So tomorrow we'll see if they're going to pull it off because I don't know I don't know if they can beat them if Kawhi doesn't play in Game 4.
I just want to appreciate Russell Westbrook real quick because he had a great game last night, and it really sucks that Kawhi was hurt and that game is never. It's probably never going to be talked about because the media just hates Russ. They just hate Russ. So every time he loses and plays well, they're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, everybody hates on him so badly.
Or am I good? Am I good? All right, bet.
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
People hate on Russ so much.
It was loading and it was black for 10 minutes. I was like,
yeah, it happened to me too.
It's true about Russ. I don't know.
This house is terrible, but it's whatever.
People hate on Russ so badly.
Last point on the Suns and Clipper. I know they hate on Russ. Oh, I saw it. I said it last show, but you weren't in there. Speaking of Russ hate, though, when Skip Bayless, who was roots for the Clippers all the time, and Skip Bayless said, I don't root for the Clippers anymore because they have Russ. That's peak Russ hate. But shout out to Russell Westbrook. He balled, though, man. I said on TikTok Live before the game, all I want Russell Westbrook, I don't even care if they lose. All I want is Russell Westbrook to just have a good game. You know what I'm saying? He had some too many turnovers, though, but just have a good game. And no one would hate on him. I actually like these last 2 games from Russ. 28 points at least back-to-back games. Oh, but what I want to say about the Clippers, 2 more things before we move on. First of all, if Kawhi Leonard plays today, if they win, I mean, if he would have played last night and they would have won, they would be up 2-1 in the series with Game 4 in LA. That's huge. That's huge. Now, I know it's hard to say if he would have played because Kawhi plays, what production are you going to get from Norman Powell? The game would be different. Yeah, it honestly would have, to be honest. But you never know. You never know because you can't just insert a guy and expect kind of this outcome. But you never know because also Kawhi brings that defense and he'll play that perimeter defense. So he probably changes that game. And the second thing I want to say about the Clippers, I said on my TikTok Live last night, that was my main point of my TikTok Live. Let's face it, the Clippers experiment is over. It is over. That Clippers experiment is over. 2019, they traded their whole future to acquire Paul George and Kawhi Leonard as a duo for the goal only to win an NBA championship. And we're here 4 years later, and they have 0 banners to show for it. 0. The experiment is over. They've had their duo together for 1 playoff run in 4 years.
Last year, they didn't even make the playoffs. Let alone they were in the play-in tournament.
2020, their first year together, they blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets.
And Doc Rivers gets fired.
The reason why they lost is because of their 2 main stars. That's why they lost. Pandemic P, Kawhi Leonard shooting shots off the backboard.
Paul George hit the shot way off the backboard.
Exactly. Way off the backboard. Make sure my internet's going out again.
And then Doc Rivers gets
Right.
fired afterwards, and the
No.
Sixers hire him.
You know what's really sucked? You know what really sucks about the Clippers? The next year, they're down 2-0 against Dallas, and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard ball out for the rest of the series. The next series, they're down 2-0 against the Jazz. Kawhi Leonard is balling out again in game 4, and then he tears his ACL.
Yep.
On that dunk, on that
Sends
crazy
the
dunk
ball
from Joe
forward.
Ingles.
And then Paul George steps up for game 5 and game 6. They go to the conference finals and lose in game 6 to the Suns. I think.
And then Pat Bev got all pushy. Let's not forget, Pat Bev got all pushy with Chris Paul afterwards in game 6. And that ended the Clipper season.
They could have beaten the Suns if Kawhi Leonard was healthy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Since the bubble, they've had their duo has been. They've only had one. They've been without one or both of their duo since the bubble. 2021, Kawhi gets hurt during the playoff run. Hey, they at least made the conference finals, but we ain't flexing conference finals around here. Especially when the Big Brother organization did an experiment that same year and won an NBA championship. 2022,
The Lakers are the better
Kawhi Leonard's
team.
out. 2022, Kawhi Leonard's out rehabbing. And then Paul George enters health and safety protocols. They don't even have Paul George, and they miss the playoffs.
Because
And
and
then
they lose
this
to a
year-
Pelicans team.
And then this
They
year,
lose to a hapless Pelicans
I
team
mean-
without
I mean,
Zion.
yeah, but they didn't have Paul George. And then this year, no PG entering the playoffs, and now no Kawhi Leonard game 3. They haven't had their duo intact in like 3 years. This experiment with Paul George and Kawhi is over. It's clearly not working.
Yeah.
It's clearly not working.
Yeah.
And I think the Clippers need to they need to rebuild the roster in the offseason because as I said before with the Clippers curse, it happened every single season with Blake and Chris Paul. When they were playing Memphis, Blake got hurt, they lose to Memphis, and the Clippers had to do a different coach. That's Vinny Del Negro losing his job. Then you have Doc Rivers. They lose to the Thunder. Then they make a lot of roster changes. Then they lose to the Rockets. Make another roster change. They get blitzed by Portland. Another roster change again. And then after they lose to the Jazz, Lob City's over the following year. Blake leaves. Chris Paul gets traded. DeAndre Jordan, he leaves too. And then we had one more year with the Clippers and Doc gets fired. So same thing. This team is not built to be a championship team. Every year they have expectations, and then something always happens to them in the playoffs or in the regular season.
They've
And
been
it's really
they've been
and
one of the favorites every year.
I always tell
failed.
Clipper fans an argument with the Laker fans. Even though the Lakers were bad over the years, the Lakers own LA, not the Clippers. It was the town that it's, and I say this at the Staples Center. This is the house that Kobe built. All right, it is not the house the Clippers built. So quit saying that the Clippers own LA. We always beat you guys in the regular season. No, that's not how it works. It matters about championships. You guys have never won an NBA final, and you guys have never won a championship, and you don't have any banners either. We have banners. You guys don't have banners. Get your own arena.
You know what's sad about the Clippers? Their best accomplishment in their franchise's history was going to the conference finals 2 years ago. That's it.
First time.
And you don't
The first time.
Like it's really sad. Like, oh man, it's just so frustrating because I know if Kawhi Leonard was hurt, they probably could have won the finals that year.
And they could have beaten Milwaukee if
They
Kawhi
could-
wasn't injured.
Okay. Remember the last time Kawhi played Giannis in the playoffs?
That was back and forth. Kawhi killed him. Leonard basically
Kawhi
said he
destroyed
got
him.
better.
Kawhi destroyed him.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the big factor about the Clippers is Kawhi Leonard's future. If he keeps getting injured, I don't think they're going to keep him because he's been bouncing around in San Antonio. He was a rising star, and he basically shut down LeBron, got the MVP in the finals. Then afterwards, we don't see him. He's injured, doesn't want to play here.
No.
And then he goes to Toronto, and he has the greatest season of his career. He hits a game-winning shot over the dagger. The ball bounced around the rim, goes in, dunks over Giannis, and everybody in Toronto saying, he's forever our champion. Please don't leave. And in that summer, he's quiet, doesn't say anything, doesn't talk to the media, doesn't talk to anyone, and goes to the Clippers. And the Clipper fans are saying, we're going to win a championship now. We got the MVP in the finals. We got the best play. I mean, it's going to happen. I don't think the Clippers are ever going to win an NBA title. Never. By this rate.
Yo, is my camera moving all right or no?
Yeah, your camera's good.
Oh, okay.
So
I keep
what about
I keep getting the internet symbol. And I just thought like it was lagging. I think
what about the Philly series?
Yeah, we'll get into that too. But I want to say my thing about the Clippers one more time and repeat it. Let's face it, bro. Like, this is not working. Like, what do? Do you trade Paul George? You can't trade Kawhi. So I guess you have to run it back next year. Honestly, I'd run it back one more year. But you just have to cross your fingers.
One more year.
That they don't get hurt. Because they have the roster.
One more year.
They have the roster to do it.
They got one more year. And if they don't basically blow it up, fire the coach, let go of the assistant coaches, dismantle the roster, get a bunch of new players. That's how I do it whenever a team loses in the playoffs. We do evaluations. Once that's over with, we blow up everybody, the roster. We don't care if you've been here for 10 years. You're gone. Nobody's safe in this league. Nobody's safe in the organization. Pack your bag.
Man, I'm
That's
out.
what happens in the trade deadline too.
Chris, I'm out on the Clippers, bro. I'm out. I'm out on this Clippers experiment. They traded
I'm dropping that
future in 2019 to get Paul George and Kawhi as a duo for one goal to win a championship. And we're 4 years in, and they have 0 banners to show for it.
I'm just done with them. I'm fed up with the Clippers.
Oh, what did Kieran say? Oh, Kieran said I'm back. Oh, my bad. That duo.
I'm just fed up with the team.
One time for a healthy playoff run, and it was a 3-1 embarrassing blow-on lead to the Denver Nuggets, and they lost that series solely because their duo was terrible down the stretch. And since the bubble, they've been missing one or both of their duos every single year. 2021, Kawhi Leonard gets hurt during the playoff run. Hey, they didn't make the conference finals, but when your big brother wins the NBA finals the year before, when they did their own version of an experiment, you don't flex conference finals. The next year, no Kawhi Leonard. And then they miss the playoffs because Paul George has health and safety protocols. And then this year, PG gets hurt going in the playoffs, and now Kawhi Leonard's load managing game threes. I'm out on the Clippers. This is just not working.
I think at this point, like
expectations every year, this is a team that could win a championship every year, and they're not meeting it every year because of unfortunate injuries or bad play from their duo.
I think at this point, like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, like you can't really trust them to stay healthy. You really can't.
I can't. And I said to Chris when you were out, I'll run it back next year, but it's a hard finger cross. If I'm Ballmer, I'm crossing my fingers so hard in the offseason. Like, Kawhi, please.
No,
Kawhi Leonard to death next year. I'm like, Paul George, please.
The thing about Steve Ballmer, he's making the right moves. It's just coming to unfortunate circumstances where
Norman Powell, Eric Gordon, Zubac, right moves. But it's unfortunate because this Clippers team should have a championship.
The thing about Steve Ballmer, he's making the right decisions. Like, it's just unfortunate circumstances when your superstar players just get injured all the time. Like,
fire inspections here. Yeah, dude, I know. That's why we got to hurry this up. Yo, Kieran, I want to ask you, before we get on the Nets 76ers, I want to ask you this quick question. We got Nets 76ers in this question, and we're done. So for this question, I want to ask you, because I got on my TikTok live. I've been getting
It's a sweep. It's a sweep tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. But I've been getting this question a lot on my live, top 10 list when I do, and I keep getting it all the time when people ask me about, who gains a lot, If Steph Curry wins another championship, where is he all time?
Top 5.
Top 5.
Yeah.
So if Steph Curry wins another championship, this puts him above Magic Johnson.
I think it would.
So
I
who's
already
the top 5? So who's the top 5?
Well, my criteria. Well, he might be top 5 for me. He'll definitely be 6. Like no lower than 6. Like I already have him at 8 right now, but my top 5, my top 5 is MJ, LeBron, Kareem, Shaq, Hakeem. He could be over Hakeem, because I just can't ignore what he has done for an entire decade. I argue that
Best 3-point shooter in the league.
yeah, I argue Hakeem's peak is better than Steph's, but when it comes to playoff time, there's not a lot of players I'm taking over Steph Curry. He's arguably the greatest offensive player of all time.
So you have him above Bean Bryant.
What?
You'd have him above Bean Bryant.
Yeah. I have him at 8 now. If you
I cannot do that. I cannot do that. See, here's my thing. Steph Curry right now, I have it hovering around 10. I think if Steph Curry wins another championship, I have him at 7. I think he passes Shaquille O'Neal, Larry Bird. He passes some guys. But I don't think he passes – he's definitely not passing Jordan, LeBron, and Kareem. He ain't passing Tim Duncan. He ain't passing Magic Johnson. And he ain't passing Bean Bryant. Here's why. Because I think these guys – first of all, just accolade for accolade. Duncan has the same amount of MVPs. All those guys have more finals MVPs than Steph Curry. Now, if Steph Curry wins a championship, he'll have the same amount of finals MVPs. I just think as basketball players, Duncan, Magic, and Kobe are just better than Steph Curry.
Okay, that's fine.
And I think Magic Johnson's all-time legacy, it's like Curry versus Magic Johnson, I think is going to be interesting. I would still have Magic Johnson above Steph Curry because Magic Johnson, I think, we're talking more MVPs, more finals MVPs. They would have the same amount of rings. And I think it would be close. It would just it's up to who you think has who had the more dominance in their era. And I think I'm going to take Magic. I might take Magic's 80s dominance over Steph Curry's dominance today.
Okay. I value other stuff. I value other stuff more than other people. I value how good they were at their peak, longevity, their offense and their defense, their playoff performances. I might be pushing it if Steph Curry's top 5. I have him at 8 right now. I have Duncan at 7 and Bill Russell at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Top 5 might be a stretch, but I don't know.
I think it would be interesting, though. But like I said, I think LeBron, Jordan, Kareem, untouchable. Curry will never pass those guys unless he somehow gets like a billion rings to end his career. But it gets really tough when we talk about Duncan, Magic, and Kobe. Those are the next tier of guys. I think he passes Shaq. I think he passes Bird. I think he passes a couple other people, Steph Curry. I think he's already passed Hakeem, but he will definitely pass Hakeem to everyone else who still has Hakeem above him. But yeah, the tier of Duncan, Magic, and Kobe would be interesting. I just don't think Curry passes them, but he's right there with him. I don't think he's passing Bean Bryant. You can make the argument for Magic. I'd still have Magic because Magic would still have more finals MVPs, more MVPs. And Tim Duncan, I think Tim Duncan might have. Tim Duncan will have an additional finals MVP. And I just think, man, Tim Duncan or Curry.
My thing is,
man, that's going to be interesting. Oh, my. Dude, that's interesting.
I will never put Steph Curry above Shaq because I think Shaq at his absolute best is better than Steph Curry. I think 2000 Shaq, like that 3-year stretch that he had, it's better than Kareem's best 3-year stretch. Like if you're talking about a peak for a player, it's MJ, LeBron, 1 or 2, and then Shaq. That's why I'm so high on Shaq.
What Shaq are you talking about? The Lakers Shaq or with Shaquille O'Neal?
From 99 to like 03, 04. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, because I watched video of Shaq and we were watching highlights because my buddies had a conversation about Shaquille O'Neal and we said when he was playing for the Lakers, he did tremendous. But after LA, he was with Miami, then Phoenix, and then the trail end, he was with Cleveland trying to get LeBron a ring. And then we got to Boston. Like, when he went to Boston, that was so cool. We got to see him play. But then there was when he's getting older, like he got injured and stuff. That was the cool seeing him play for the Celtics. when he was healthy, because we were there for the Heat and Celtics game on opening night, and we saw Shaq just get the ball and yam it, and we're like, let's go. I'm like, look at him. And then when he's making a free throw, we're like, yeah, he made a free throw. And we're going crazy when he makes a free, because Shaq's not really a good free throw shooter, but I'm just saying to you, Shaq's one of the all-time greats too. I mean, for big men.
Casual, make this a video because I have to convince people that Shaquille O'Neal is a top 5 player of all time. He at his peak is almost as good as Michael Jordan, LeBron James. His playoff numbers are top 5 lock. At his peak, like from 97 to 2003, he was a great defender. I just think he didn't last as like other guys like Kareem and Duncan, but it's not like he was like only good from 2000 to 2002 because people only view that. Like from 1992 to 2006, Shaq was no lower than like a top 5 center in the league. Like he was that good for so long. I am tired. I've seen a lot of old heads put Shaq outside the top 10. I think it's absurd. I've seen Dr. J above Shaq. It is ridiculous. Put Shaq in the top 5.
Shaq's got to be the. Yeah, I agree. Shaq is a top 5 big man. I mean, no respect, bro, but he is. Because in Boston, not Boston, LA and Miami, 2 championship teams right there, and leading a young D Wade to win an NBA Finals MVP. No one can underestimate Shaq right there.
Is this a
You gotta-
terrible argument for me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think you can be top 5 with only one MVP. Is that a bad dude? Is that a bad argument?
The thing about
Is that a bad
MVP,
separator? When I look at my top 5 is Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Tim Duncan.
listen, I think MVPs are cool to look at, but I just look how they were as a player. I think Shaq got robbed like twice, in my opinion. Or no, probably twice. Because I think he was the best player in 2001. I think he should have won it over Allen Iverson. I don't think Allen Iverson deserved that MVP. And then in 2002, he was arguably still better than Tim Duncan. So yeah, I think MVP, you can use MVPs cool, but I believe they need context.
Most valuable player, the most valuable player in the league for MVP. I mean, the MVP conversation every year when we have the NBA MVP, and everyone talks about who's the best player in the league, who's getting the award. It's always the same person. I mean, you had over the years, you have LeBron, Steph, Giannis, Jokic, KD, got it, Kobe. I'm just saying that's going to be an interesting conversation because we already have the NBA awards that have been out already this season. Because I mentioned the awards, saying the awards that have come out have been Coach of the Year unanimously was Mike Brown. Sixth Man of the Year, Malcolm Brogdon got it. So I don't know. I mean, everyone has that argument. I mean, this year I got to ask you that, Phineas, since with the MVP award, who is the MVP this season with the 3 finalists? You got Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis. Those 3 guys are who do you got?
I think all of them have an argument. Well, I think Giannis has an argument because he's just the best player in the world, in my opinion.
And no one can stop that guy. I mean, have you seen he's like this jacked, and the only way you can stop him is by standing like this trying to draw a charge, or you having to hog tie him to stop him from scoring a layup. That's the only way you can stop Giannis.
Yeah, but if we're actually talking about the most valuable player on a team, it's Nikola Jokic. You can't tell me that he's more valuable.
So you think he's going to go for 3? You think he's going to go for the 3-peat?
Well, I think Embiid's going to win it because I feel like they're just not going to give it to Jokic because he won it. They're not
2 years in a row.
Yeah, but we're just talking about the most valuable player in basketball right now. It's probably Nikola Jokic.
I agree.
Off the court, they have a losing record. Their offense is one of the worst in basketball. Their role players play worse. If you look at Aaron Gordon's numbers, they're not as good without Nikola Jokic, which is obvious because Nikola Jokic's connected passing is probably top 5 ever.
And over the years, with the Denver Nuggets. Over the years, the Denver Nuggets have been a good team, but give credit to last year, because last year when he got MVP, people were saying he shouldn't have gotten it, and Embiid should have gotten it. Well, there's two differences. Denver had a lot of injuries. Like I told people, let's remember, the Nuggets last season started without Murray all year. No Jamal Murray, and Porter Jr. had a back injury and only played a couple of games. So he was playing the best ball of his career. And even though he lost to the Golden State Warriors, you still got to give Jokic the MVP. The other side, you have Embiid. The Sixers are coming off a year where they lose to Atlanta, and then they have you-know-who saying, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to play ball with Embiid anymore. And you have Ben and his personal issues, and people want to blame Embiid and Doc, but no, it's Ben. But he played phenomenal in the playoffs, despite getting hurt, and they got Harden. Embiid should have gotten the MVP award last season.
I think last
right.
season.
Wait, hold on, real quick. Real quick. What are we talking about, bro? I had the fire inspection come.
We were talking about Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis. I think last season. I think last season that like Giannis arguably deserved it. I think that was one of his better years of his career, especially like his offense. I think his offense was really good that year, and people don't really give him credit for that. He's obviously a great defender. He's one of the best defenders in the league. But I think Giannis is actually worse this year than last year. I think Giannis this year is a distant third. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, because any other year he would get it. But I think Jokic and Embiid are having better seasons than Giannis. But if you're seeing that playoff game that Embiid had, he's not the most valuable player in the league. I don't care.
Okay. Speaking of that,
I
know you got to leave at 1:30, and I'm trying to wrap this up, dude. I'm sorry I was gone for like 10 minutes, dude. The fire started coming in my room and expecting it, so I was like, oh my god. All right, so 76ers Nets. Finally, we get to talk about it since we alluded to Embiid. You said Embiid doesn't look like the most valuable player in that series. You know who the MVP of that series is, and that's Tyrese Maxey. Shout out to Tyrese Maxey. He is the best player for Philly. Kieran, if you want to talk about this series, you can start. I know you're alluding in the pre-show about the Harden flagrant and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then let's talk about the other
how the calls were made.
No.
I see two different flagrant calls. I don't like how they were assessed by the officials. Harden gets a flagrant, he gets ejected, and Embiid gets a flagrant, he's still there. I think that what Embiid did was way worse. I think they should have flipped it. But
here's what it was: 2 ejections, 2 flagrant fouls, 1 flagrant foul, and 2 technical fouls. That's how physical the game got last night. You had Claxton getting ejected for laughing at Embiid after he dunks the ball. He's over there laughing at Joel and some other stuff. That was his second technical. He's gone. And then you had Harden doing his little trademark dribble, hits O'Neal in the groin. Yeah. He's gone for the game.
That was unintentional. I know that was unintentional because Harden never does that.
He did it to Taylor. He did it to Taylor Horton Tucker from the Lakers. I remember on Christmas Day, Lakers played the Nets. He did the same thing to Horton Tucker to get him off him. He literally rammed his elbow right into Horton Tucker's midsection to create space. So it's not the first time James has done that in the game.
I know it's not the first time, but I just don't believe he doesn't mean to do that. I think they should have gave him a flagrant 1, and Embiid should have got injected.
Because he scissor kicked. I mean,
he literally kicked him in the nuts. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
Nick dunked the ball.
I think
Nick dunked the ball.
The officials were just wrong on so many levels throughout the game. I think this was a very physical game that the officials got way too involved in. What you're talking about, Embiid kicking the man in the nuts, that's a flagrant 2, bro. That's an ejection.
We saw Draymond Green do the same thing, where Draymond kept flailing his legs up in the air, and they call it a flagrant. And then when he kicked Steven Adams, I'm going to bring this up to the letter of the law. When he did it to Steven Adams, my cousin was like, he didn't mean to do that.
Exactly.
He wasn't trying to. And I said, he's going to get suspended, and it's going to come back to bite him in the butt.
You can argue that Draymond Green did that on accident, but you can't argue that Joel Embiid did that on accident. That was full.
It was on purpose.
Claxton steps over. It was Claxton, right? Claxton steps over him, and he just kicks him right there in the lower section. Unacceptable. You got to take him out of the game.
Well, and it should be a suspension.
I don't 100% agree with taking him out of the game necessarily. What I don't like is the fact that James Harden got taken out of the game and not Joel Embiid. What James Harden did was what a lot of guards do. Is when you're getting a little handsy on defense, guards like to swat your hand away. Like, yo, get off me. You're gonna hand check me. I'm gonna swipe your hand away. Right? That's what a lot of guards do. Harden accidentally, while trying to swipe the defender's hand away, hit him in the lower section, bro. And they called
And
that
that's got to be.
two. I don't buy it. I think flagrant 2 should only go to like purposeful, violent acts. And you took Harden out of the game. You should have made Joel Embiid flagrant 2. Harden, if you want to say what Harden did was a flagrant, that's fine, but it's a flagrant 1. I think it was accidental.
And it should have been a 2. And then for Claxton, it should have been. They said, well, Claxton didn't do anything. He was ejected for taunting. I mean, in basketball, you can express your emotions. Like if someone dunks the ball or if they cross you up and you stand over them and you're going like, yeah, let's go. You're out. And like there's no. And then somebody who's a net fan, my friend's like, he didn't even do it. He was taunting him. He had one technical for the stepping over Joel Embiid, and that means you're out of the game. And he should have known better.
And Chris, that Claxton ejection completely shifted the game. Because I think at the time, threw up like 6-7 when Claxton got ejected. So we're talking about, and if you watch the next
destroying Embiid.
Claxton was destroying Embiid. He owned Embiid offensively and defensively. Claxton was getting out against steals. Claxton was putting up dunks. Claxton's their only body they had to throw out Joel Embiid because who's next in line? Dorian Finney-Smith? Royce O'Neal? So your front court's going to be Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith against Joel Embiid. Now with no Claxton. It completely changed the series. I mean, there's not series.
And I think that that's going to change for tomorrow night because Philly overall, I mean, the Sixers last night, Tyrese Maxey, he had a great game last night with 25. For Brooklyn, Mikal Bridges had 26. So by tomorrow afternoon, it's a sweep. It's a gentleman's sweep for Philly.
They play tomorrow?
Yeah, game 4.
So weird, bro. I hate how, dude, the NBA schedule is so weird. Game 1 and 2 could have like a 3-day break. All of a sudden, they're playing like every other game. It makes no sense, bro. The NBA
I mean, and they have ABC. Of course, they got tonight. Someone's like, why is the game on ABC and not ESPN tonight? Because the NBA on ABC hasn't been televised that much lately since, I don't know, March was the last.
I thought they only did like weekend games.
And they said, why do they do the? Like, why can't they do it tomorrow? Like, why can't they put the game on ABC on ABC at 1:00 instead of TNT? Well, because TNT, they don't get a break on Saturday. On Sunday, they have back-to-back days, so it's kind of funny to see that.
The inside the NBA crew is working hard.
Yeah, because once their season's over, they go on vacation.
I want to say one more thing about the Nets, and we'll get out of here. I'm going to see if you guys agree about this. I said it last show, and I'm going to say it again. Now, the Nets did do a better job of it last game, but I still think I need to see more improvement. There should be
they need to make improvements in general.
There should be no reason that Cam Thomas is not getting consistent playing time. There should be no reason.
He started the year. I mean, let's not forget. I'm going to kind of allude to Brooklyn. This season, you have two players. You have Kyrie and KD. They made the playoffs because of them. Then you turn the page, and everybody's gone. The coach is gone, that's Steve Nash. And then you have the player on the bench who hasn't done anything and has scored 7.9 points. He's on the bench in street clothes, and he's not even around in the team. That's Ben Simmons. This Nets team this year, and compared to last year when they got swept by Boston, is a soap opera. They seriously do not know how to win a championship. They never will win an NBA title. They never will.
What I'm trying to say about Cam Thomas is like, look, every time this man gets 20-plus minutes, he's giving you 20, 30 points. I mean, I think he just put 48 on Philly last week to end the regular season.
He hasn't even played a single minute in the series.
He was the SEC leading scorer.
All right, I gotta go. It was good talking to y'all, though.
See you later, man. I gotta look at the game log.
Back then, I'm gonna start talking again.
He had 46 points in that last game against Brooklyn. And then since then, he has not even played any minutes at all. So that's the kicker.
Okay,
He
I'm
had
back.
46 points. In the last game when they played against Brooklyn in the final game of the season on Easter, and they had Mac McClung on the team, and he's not even played any minutes either because he's on a two-way contract. He had 46 points in that game. Cam Thomas did.
Okay, I'm back. Internet was terrible. So let me restart what I'm saying. Hopefully, you guys heard what I was going to say. So what I was trying to say about Cam Thomas before the delightful internet completely took me off stream, I'll restate it for the people in the back. There should be no reason that Cam Thomas isn't getting consistent playing time. I see him playing 11 minutes last night for the first time in forever is not enough because this is a guy who, when he gets at least 20 minutes, he's giving you 20 to 40 points. I think what? Again, the final game of the season, he had, 46 points?
Yeah, he had 46.
He is straight buckets, bro. He was the SEC leading scorer. And I think during that stretch of the season, he had 3 straight 40-point games.
I'm on ESPN right now. He had a 47-point game against the Clippers, a 43-point game against the Suns, a 44-point game against the Celtics, not against Celtics, but a 44-point game against Washington, and then a 43 game against. Let me look at the other stats. He had career high, and he had a 33-point game against the Pacers too, and he also had a 21-point game against Charlotte. And since then, he hasn't put up any big time numbers in that Philly series.
It's because they haven't given him minutes. It's because they're not giving him consistent
And the coach in Brooklyn, that coach needs to go. Jacques Vaughn, after the series, needs to be fired. The Brooklyn Nets, and if you're a Nets fan and you're watching this, I'm going to say this nicely, your team does not know how to succeed in coaching. Every year, the coach is terrible. You had Avery Johnson. You had PJ Carlesimo. You had Jason Kidd, who played on the New Jersey Nets, and he coached there for a year. Then you have who's on the Lakers. Then you have Lionel Hollins, who later joins the Lakers staff. Then you have another coach. Then you have Kenny Atkinson, who is now a championship coach in Golden State. And then you have Steve Nash, who had no business coaching that team, and then he gets fired. Now you have Jacques Vaughn as your coach.
Yeah,
so
dude, you can't tell me. I think Cam Thomas would be the perfect sixth man for this team. Straight buckets, bro. You give him 15
he's the
to 20
future.
minutes to come in and just score off the bench. Think about the last great couple six man in the 2010s. Jamal
Harden.
Crawford, Lou Williams, guys who are just straight buckets, giving you 20 to 30 minutes a game.
He's a part of the future.
Cam Thomas could be that.
He's the future of Brooklyn. Cam Thomas now is a part of the future.
I think it's coaching malpractice that Cam Thomas is barely getting playing time. I mean, last night he gets 11 minutes for the first time forever. This dude goes straight DMPs.
Yeah.
He'll have 40 one night. He'll have 48 one day, and then he'll get a DMP the next. It makes no sense. I think this is straight coaching malpractice, what they're doing with Cam Thomas. I think a lot of teams will love to have him.
And the Brooklyn Nets seriously need to do some reevaluating in this offseason, because right now, after tomorrow afternoon's game at 1 o'clock, when they lose the series in Game 4, there's going to be a ton of changes going for Brooklyn this summer. The first problem is the coaching, because overall, Jacques Vaughn had Kyrie and those guys, and they're gone. But they need to get a good head coach. And I think Nick Nurse should not coach. He should go to Houston, but Frank Vogel should come to the Brooklyn Nets.
I think the Brooklyn Nets, honestly, now with KD and Kyrie gone, they got that bad vibes out the locker room. That's a good spot to land. I mean, you're seeing Cam Johnson, the other Cam. That boy's really good at it. Phoenix.
Mikal Bridges.
Bridges is a star in the making. Cam Johnson,
Claxton,
a nice all-star type. I mean, he's not really but a really, really, really guy who can get an all-star vote in the future. I mean, look what he's doing against Philly. You have
and then Ben Simmons.
Claxton's one of the best defensive big men in the NBA. You have a core. It's nice future. Future's probably in Brooklyn. And you have Cam Thomas, a gem, off the bench.
But the bigger question, and this is my overall bigger question about Brooklyn, is what to do about Ben Simmons. That is the number one key thing because
I don't
he
want
needs
I don't want Ben Simmons a part of all my future, any of my future. I don't want. He's not a part of my plan. I got to let him walk. I don't know what his contract's looking like.
2 years. And many of the kids were like saying, I believe in Ben. Like, you're a little kid and you believe in any athlete who's got his problems. Like, well, it's not his fault that he had a. Well, here's the thing about Ben. 1, you don't shoot the ball from 3 that well. 2, I get that you're an all-star.
You don't shoot the ball. It's not like he can't shoot. He doesn't even shoot at all.
Even if you give him the ball and he's right here on the top of the key or the wing for the 3, he just dribbles the ball and he doesn't want to shoot it. And in the Milwaukee and Brooklyn game, I was going, shoot the ball. No one's guarding you.
Negative for the Brooklyn Nets.
And they needed to trade him. Like in the offseason, he's got 2 years left. Move him.
More than ever. Now he's injured.
Just move him. Move him somewhere where he can get more. I mean, I think that any team, like if it's Houston, Charlotte, or Detroit, trade him to those teams. They could use him. I mean, the Rockets could use Ben. No, not the Rockets, but the Hornets could use him, or the Pistons could use Ben Simmons, or just buy him out. Like to say, we're going to buy out your contract so you can just rehab or do whatever you want. So for Brooklyn overall, that's what they need to do this offseason. The coaching and what to do about Ben Simmons and the future to build around. Now that Kyrie and KD is gone, they can build around the young core they got and see what they can do next year, because this season and last season was a soap opera. And there were so many issues and components that kept them from being a championship team. And this is the second year that they were coming into this year as title favorites, but a lot of issues come into play, and they're on their way out of the playoffs early again.
Well, I think we had a great show. Hour and 16 in, covered a lot, said a lot of takes. I think we had a good show today, man. I can't wait for the games tonight. Knicks in Madison Square Garden. I can't wait for that.
And then tomorrow, man. Tomorrow, this weekend, there's a lot.
This is the first show where I'm not leading off or spending significant time talking about the Lakers because I didn't want to.
Yeah. Hopefully they can pull it off tomorrow against Memphis. And we don't know if Ja's playing. We don't even know if Giannis is playing tomorrow either. Because
the thing about now I'm going to talk about him at the end of the show real quick. It's those two teams are interesting because the way they're coached and the way the ball moves, their stars aren't a huge vacuum. So, like, when their stars are missing time, that team can still flow the ball around because they're not dependent on their star. I mean, Memphis,
like the Heat.
Ja Morant doesn't take so much usage on the offense. So, if Luka Doncic, his usage rate is so high. So, like, if Luka's off, the whole offense is built around Luka. So, if Luka's out, Dallas doesn't know what to do. But since Ja Morant, the team's not that dependent on Ja Morant, that team can be so well without Ja Morant. Same, the Milwaukee Bucks aren't that dependent on Giannis. So when Giannis is out, they can still move the ball. They can still shoot, still get shots off without him. So those
the Miami Heat.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're superstars. You're supposed to win that game. Don't underestimate the Milwaukee Bucks without Giannis, because that's a playoff team without Giannis. In Memphis without Ja, that's a playoff team. These are still really good teams. So I wouldn't.
And then for the Miami Heat, they have a bigger road because without Tyler Hero, I don't think they're beating Milwaukee without Hero on the floor.
Huge. That loss is extremely huge because that's what 15 to 20 points just wiped off your team.
And then you put in Duncan Robinson, and then you look over on the bench and you see Coach Spo say, hey, Duncan, you're going to get some minutes tonight. And I remember looking at that stat and like, he hasn't even played in about a month. Like, I know. And it's so sad because if the Heat don't win the series against the Bucks, I think there's going to be changes, like major changes. Like Jimmy's not staying. They need to get rid of Duncan Robinson's big contract.
They should have made changes like 2 years ago. They haven't.
And really the deadline, they didn't.
I mean, they got Kyle Lowry, but they haven't really made any significant changes. They've always been the trade for injury market for 2 years now, and they haven't done anything. But that's enough for us. Thank you guys for tuning in to the 30th episode of Some Casual Takes. Great episode today. I'm going to be back on Monday. Monday's a special episode. We're going to do an NFL draft special because the draft's on Thursday. And I'm going to do my NFL draft mock predictions with a couple NFL guys. So thank you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned for that. I don't know what time that's going to be. I kind of want to do that earlier in the day, but I have class, so I have to figure that out. But stay tuned on the TikTok, Some Casual Takes. You'll see the updates. I'll go live on there too. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Chris,
Yep.
for coming on, man.
Hell yeah.